What's up, everybody? What the fuck? What? We were doing so good with those introductions there for a while there. I'd say something like Will would say something, or Tim would cough, or you would cough. Some motherfuckers always get interrupt, you know. But what up, everybody? This is Barry with the Borderline Hostility podcast. With me this week, as always, my buddy D, my man Will.
Hey-o.
Yo. So we just had Thanksgiving. I think my intestines and my O-ring is still resting. It's been a rough weekend for me. Just got out of the old bathroom. But we just had Thanksgiving, a lot of food, good times. Will had an interesting story he wanted to share, and I'm as always, Will's got good stories, so I'm waiting to hear what it is. I'm not heard this yet.
It's not a good story. It's just one of my favorite jokes, and like it's a Thanksgiving related joke.
Not many of those, I don't think. Go ahead.
All right. There's this guy working in a turkey factory, and in order to manage everything, he has to go around and manually masturbate the male turkeys to deposit the female turkeys. He's having a rough day because with all kind of holidays, there's always kind of stress, and this is work related because it's going to be a busy year. So he's got his clipboard in his one hand, and he's changing rubber gloves, and the turkey that he's about to, take care of looks at him funny, crooks his head, and goes gobble gobble. And the guy exhales deep, and he goes, "Fuck no, man! You're getting a hand job like everybody else."
I thought that was going to be a different joke. I've never heard that one.
It made me laugh, and but the same shit that makes me laugh, the same shit that makes 7-year-olds laugh.
Gobble gobble. I'm gonna start using that on the wife.
Like I think on one of the episodes, just like that Geely or whatever, where Jennifer Lopez says it's turkey time, and Ben Affleck's like, "What?" She's going, and she somewhat exposes herself, and it's like gobble gobble. So fucking terrible.
What's amazing? That's the second Geely reference in a podcast.
Yeah,
we're not even at double digits yet in our show run yet.
Yeah.
I've never even seen the movie. I just seen that scene. They're like, this one scene epitomizes how terrible this movie is.
Yeah.
Did y'all do anything fun for Thanksgiving in all honesty?
I just went and had Thanksgiving with my mom and her husband, and they got these in the grocery store. They have these like Bob Evans side dishes you can buy. They got the 5 cheese mac and cheese, which is fucking excellent. And then I got at Sam's Club, I got these this kit for making Red Lobster biscuits.
Should the cheese biscuits?
Heck yeah!
No.
So
that
was my contribution.
I've been gluten free or trying to be gluten free for the last couple months, and it's helped me out quite a bit with my gut. But I tried my hand at gluten free pumpkin and chocolate pie. So pumpkin pie was easy. Man, I'm not a chef by any means, I'm not a pastry chef or anything. So I just got the can, put all the ingredients in the back, and voila, the pumpkin pie was done. The chocolate pie was a recipe I found online, and it required had some meringue on top. I fucked that shit up royally. So I guess you cook the pie, take it out, put the meringue on, and then bake it longer. And yeah. I don't know what I did. I don't know what I did at all. That pie, baked it too long for one. So when it came out, like the meringue was almost like a creme brulee top. Like you literally cracked it with a fork. So, but it tasted good. It's a little gritty. The only thing that was gluten-free about the actual pie filling was I had to use a gluten-free flour. So that may have fucked the texture up, but overall it was still a good flavorful pie. Both of them were pretty good.
So, since you're talking pies, I do have to mention my total disappointment with fucking Bob Evans pies. So my favorite pie is pretty much a peanut butter pie, and they had the most amazing peanut butter pie. Fucking delicious. I don't know if either of you have ever had it. I'll have to put like a before picture up and then an after picture, but their pie used to be kind of like a creamy peanut butter, then it had like whipped topping on it, and now it's like a slimy peanut butter with like a chocolate whipped topping. Not anywhere near as good. And so my mom asked me like, "Hey, what kind of pie do you want?" I was like, "Oh, I was like peanut butter pie from Bob Evans." So that's what she went and got, and it was fucking garbage.
I'll just share my little recipe I found. Well, it's not my recipe. It's Paula Dean's recipe, but it's super simple. I've been making it for years, and it's hands down the best peanut butter pie I've ever had.
Are you endorsing Paula Dean?
I
The after pictures not gonna be after it travels through your intestines, is it?
No. The before is like what the pie used to look like when it was good, and the after is what it looks like now, which is fucking garbage.
it's just in the garbage. It's in the garbage.
Should be.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Will, did you have to work, or were you? I guess y'all were open. Did you have to?
We haven't closed, and like last night was day number 35 in a row for me.
Jesus.
And
Jesus.
Well, I think it's kind of helped is like with Bashir closed down the bars. I'm not having to yell at drunk people to put masks on.
You're not getting the riffraff from that nearby bar.
Yeah, like it's just like because they don't make me wear a mask at that bar. It's like, well, yeah, that's a super spreader event over there. I don't want COVID. And then I hear the most arrogant thing is like, well, if you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it. It's just like, motherfucker, I don't want it. But not.
That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Well, I had something kind of shitty happen this week with like there's a customer who I absolutely adored, and he would come in there and we'd hang out, we watch YouTube videos and stuff like that. We watched whenever he come in, he'd go get a chair. We watch Andy Bashir's press conference media briefing thing. We watch NBC News Tonight, and then we bullshit and laugh about it. And like Tuesday, he came in and we hung out, and he was a heavy man, and like when he got tired, he would just fall asleep. Mid conversation, you just hear him like snore like that. Well, anyway, Tuesday morning, he hung out with me for a couple hours. He went home and he passed away, which was miserable because it was a completely unnecessary death. So I mean, it's the fourth major death that's happened to me like this year, and there's one we'll be bringing up during our news thing, but like it just sucks that I was the last person that guy talked to, and I feel kind of guilty about that. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, but maybe for him it was a good thing. He probably enjoyed your company, so you're the last person he got to talk to.
Well, but the thing is, though, he had a lovely wife, and he's got two great sons, and he's one of those guys that usually if there's somebody somewhat liked at the store, one of the employees will end up hating him or bad mouthing him, but he was universally loved. So it's not like one of my shithead customers that I pray to dies. But I didn't. Some customers bought me plates of food and stuff like that. Because I was dead serious about not fucking traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a thing I saw that was talking about when the virus outbreak happened in Wuhan, it was 5 million people from Wuhan traveled, and then the virus outbreak's catastrophic in the U.S. and 50 million people are traveling.
But
Go ahead, Will.
No, go ahead, Barry.
I had another little anecdote that I totally forgot about. So we spent time at the house Thanksgiving morning, and then went over to our friends, the Livers, who we've been hanging out with during this entire time. It's kind of a bubble family that we spend time with, and we did the Black Lives Matter protest here in our small town and during the summer, and there was a man that would always be out, an older black guy that always was out on the bench, and said hello to him. He's a super nice dude, but gave the appearance that he was homeless, and we'd been seeing him since the protest had ended here. We'd see him on Main Street a lot. So after eating Thanksgiving dinner, we were like, hey, let's make some plates. Let's see if he's out. Let's see if anybody's out on Main Street. So we went down there, and we circled the block because when we got to him, there's a bench that he sleeps on.
I saw that. I was wondering what that was.
So he had 40, at the time that we stopped, it was about 9 o'clock. He had 45 boxes brought to him as of that moment.
Yeah.
And someone had brought him blankets. He had a little shopping cart that he had some stuff in that someone had stolen from him, I guess. That's what we'd heard. And so we took plates down, and then my buddy Daniel grabbed a blanket and one of his hoodies, and was going to donate it to him. And we got there, and we're like, "Well, shit, this food is kind of, it's going to spoiled. It's going to be bad tomorrow because he's not going to have time to eat it because we saw this mountain of food."
Yeah.
You should confiscate some of his food, man.
Say what?
You should confiscate some of his food. It's like, all right, motherfucker, you're not gonna eat all this.
Or just go there with a plate and like trade them for things you want.
That's right.
Be like, I want your high C, and I'll give you these. I can't think of that shit from that Adam Sandler movie where you try to trade with that kid.
But I felt bad that we couldn't. We left the food in the car and went and gave him the blanket and the hoodie and talked to him for about 5-10 minutes. And there was someone that was parked there that checks up on him, and he was sharing his story and stuff like that with us. And super nice guy, but it was kind of cool because when we did the Black Lives Matter protests, we were like, holy crap! Like more than us believe that Black people shouldn't be killed by police.
Yeah, in Nicholasville.
In Nicholasville, that was the big kicker. It's like in a small town, in a red state, a red county, people care and are out here and voicing it with us, and it was cool to see him also get that treatment. Like I said, as an older Black gentleman that lives on our street, on our main street. I mean, like most of the time, people were looked upon as like, get this trash out of our area. No one should be sleeping outside. Instead of helping them, they usually shun them away. It was kind of nice. It'd been nicer if he had a place to stay, but
I'm not sure what day it was, but I'm guessing it was Friday, the day after. But I was going somewhere and I drove past and I saw all that stuff. I'm like, what the hell? Like it looked like 5 homeless people's worth of stuff.
Well, he still had a pile Saturday morning when we drove by.
And it was just there, and I didn't see anybody around it. I was like, I thought maybe some people I just, dropped out there some community thing or something, whatever. And then when I drove past later, I saw him there with it and everything. And
I think I do another podcast during the week, and I think that we're going to try to swing by and just check up on him. He was talking about visiting his daughter out of state, so I'm hoping that's the case here soon, and he's not sleeping on the streets in the middle of freaking winter. But we can check up on him weekly and see how he's doing, and if he needs anything, maybe. And
I mean, you got room in your house, don't you?
Oh yeah, I mean 3-bedroom, 5 people live here. Yeah,
you're only in the garage podcasting.
People are living in our dining room. It's fine. We got room. But,
see, it sounds like y'all have nice homeless people in Nicholasville. See, I have the complete opposite. My homeless people that come into the store, they're the kind of like they got like a cha-cha line of shopping carts rigged together, and that's their mobile home, and they're always wanting to fight, and and it's just it's a nightmare. So it's actually the Nicholasville homeless sound actually like pleasant.
What
the hell was that?
Sorry.
What was that?
I grabbed my kiss for my wife.
Oh, it looked kind of weird. I'm like,
tell her.
On a screen, it looked like you were leaning over to kiss Derrick.
Tell her she's your second favorite wife.
That's a great segue that you don't know about yet. That's interesting that you brought that up. Well, you want to hit the news real fast?
Okay, I'll try to give it a shot.
And I said hit for another segue, right? Right?
Oh yeah. 2 world-class fights happened last night, but we'll get to that in the sports section of the news. All right. The biggest story that's affecting the whole world right now is the coronavirus. My research, which consists of me looking at the Yahoo news page.
Heck yeah.
We got 5 vaccines coming out, which is pretty impressive. We don't know what AstraZeneca, Janssen's, Moderna, Novavax, and Pfizer's, which is pretty impressive. I don't know how many doses of each are going to be ready, but this is a good sign. It's a good sign that this many things might fix it, but it might be a bad sign that if that many things fix it, that the thing might mutate, and be a bigger problem later on.
Be like a seasonal thing. That'd be terrible.
Yes,
I saw they're actually making use of public transport planes, airlines to fly the vaccines around right now.
Makes sense. Win-win situation for everybody.
Well, then on the radio this morning, I heard like a big problem they're going to have is distribution. Like so, and there was actually a pretty genius idea that they had because during the winter they usually shut down car washes. But car washes usually there's only one way you get in and one way you can get out. What they're going to do is just have people so they don't have to get out of their car. They can just expose their arm, and then there's going to be a person that's going to be in a heated place to give the shot, and then get the people out get the fuck out of there. Because and it's good. It's good use for car washes because they usually don't do good business during the winter.
Yeah.
The only problem I see with that is, after they give you a shot, they have to kiss it. So, I mean, they're going to have to desanitize their lips for every customer.
Those lips better be desanitized.
Yeah.
You also get a shot and a new car smell scent.
Yeah. You get a little tree.
Yeah.
That would be a great way to tell if people have been vaccinated or not. They get that little metal thing like pets and stuff like that. They get the little tree.
I still wish that big places like Walmart or Kroger or whatever would whenever they have someone come in the line without a mask on, they should have a bell they ring, anti-masker. We're checking out anti-masker here. Just embarrass the shit out of them.
I like that they just go walk around the register and then just grab the front of their cart and just push it over.
Yeah.
or the clerk could just pull out a gun and just shoot the person right in the face. Am I right, boys? Am I right? Anyway.
No comment.
All right. On in the news, in Kentucky, we are dangerously close to crossing the 200,000 positive cases with 2,000 dead. Probably in the next week or so, which is scary as shit. Because that's that's 2,000's half of Fleming County, the county I grew up in. Which that's crazy. That if you lined up all the people I grew up with, all the people in the population of Fleming County, and just halved it, that's how many people have died from the coronavirus in Kentucky. Creepy shit. And on Thanksgiving alone, we had 32 confirmed dead from the coronavirus.
It's a wonderful Thanksgiving gift.
Oh yeah,
for those families.
And also, the thing is, and the CDC told everybody, do not travel. Stay in your goddamn houses. I mean, they didn't say it like that, but emphasis, right?
Especially by plane.
Yeah, but on the news all last week, from Monday to Thanksgiving, they showed the airports packed.
Yeah.
And they were on top of each other. And then after Thanksgiving, they showed the Black Friday crowds. And I heard that this is the second busiest Black Friday that we've ever had.
Holy
ever.
Shit.
Yes.
Really?
That's what they said on the radio. I could be wrong, where I might heard it wrong, but in 3 weeks, which will make it probably about December 12th to December 15th, our numbers are going to be not just Kentucky's numbers, the United States numbers are going to be through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
And it sucks too because I think that's the new restrictions that were put in a couple weeks ago here in Kentucky. I think that was just okay, if I could put a tourniquet on this, maybe it will offset the Thanksgiving massacre that we're about to have. Fucking miserable.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Then there's a bunch of local businesses around. There's a place called Beans, and there's another I can't remember the brewery, but they're just basically saying, nah, we're done with the virus. So, Dictator Bashir, stick your rules up your ass. We're gonna do what they want. Well, they got shut down. And of course, there's GoFundMe pages for these assholes, and I don't think that. I don't know. It sucks that GoFundMe gets abused like this. It should be for people hey, I want to make a comic book. I need $3,000 to publish it. Or hey, I want to make a short movie. I need $10,000 to make it. That kind of thing. It should be for hospital bills And it should be for like assholes that like that
Refuse service to like a black couple or refuse service to a
yeah.
gay couple or something.
Well, I don't know. But another thing that and I am somewhat sympathetic to those businesses. Not a whole great deal because a lot of them are assholes, but like a lot of stuff would be fixed if there was a fucking stimulus.
Yep.
We're still no news about a stimulus, nothing at all.
Our glorious Mitch McConnell, what was it, took the Senate on vacation?
Yes. And it's miserable because we're dangerously, we're less than a month away from all those people getting kicked off to unemployment, and the mass evictions are going to start, which I really don't understand the eviction thing because it's not like there's just because you kick a whole lot of people out because the population because we all closed down doesn't mean there's all these renters ready to move into these apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, on the corona front, there was they had a funeral in Texas, and this amazed me. 42 people tested positive. Super spreader event. And then, of course, we get to hear about, how these people regret it now, even though the CDC was telling everybody, don't do this. And that amazes me because that's psychopathic right there. That, you think that, well, obviously they're not talking about me, of course. They're meaning everybody else except me.
Yeah, all these unsafe people.
Yes. And what's even more crazy, and why it kind of explains why we have what we have, is that there's not just one narcissist that thought this. Every motherfucker that went to the airport or went Black Friday shopping thought that they're like, nah, they don't mean me. They mean everybody else except me. They just don't want to say my name. They're because it's the same thinking that the son of Sam Killer had when the dog was talking to him.
Well, it's like it's a lesson you take from the movie 28 Days Later, and I could see where maybe some people traveled earlier than normal, but in 20 Days Later, that's one of the person talks about this, gives a story about what happened to them, and they said they went to when that zombie outbreak happens, they went to the airport with a whole bunch of cash, thinking that they could buy their way onto a plane, and it's like they didn't realize that there was thousands of other people had the exact same idea. So,
well, not really the most well thought out plan. It's sort of like in Boogie Nights when they're like, "Hey, it'll be a great idea. We can rip this drug dealer off by selling him baking soda." That's a great idea. Not knowing that that's probably been thought of millions of times by that point. But I digress.
Bit.
You all right?
Yeah, cat's being dumb.
Oh,
being a little shit. A quick segue, which is on your notes. This is kind of news because I kind of mentioned this to Barry because Barry's looking to build a house maybe someday soon, eventually. The price of wood is fucking insane. I remember after Trump did his stupid trade war stuff, and he did it with Canada of all people, the price of lumber skyrocketed a bit, and you get a 2x4, like a 92-inch 2x4 for I think it was $251 at the time, which was pretty damn high. And right now they're $510, which means dude, you're at like $100,000 house. You're adding probably 20 grand onto right now because of the price of wood.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, there was one of my dad's friends is a contractor, and he's like, yeah. I paid the same. I paid 40% more this year for lumber than I did last year.
Well, you probably know Bob the builder. That the guy, his name's Bob, and they call him the builder, but he's a builder out here, and he quit building houses right now because he's like the wood's too expensive. He's like, I can't, give people a reasonable price.
Yeah.
We're fucked right now.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot to do with the California fires, which I don't. It's what somebody told me. I don't know if that's true, but
well, if only they raked the forest.
yeah, raked the federal forest that wasn't owned by the state.
You non-raking motherfuckers! Now we have to pay twice as much for 2x4s.
Yeah.
What's Hacksaw Jim Duggan gonna do?
You can't afford it now. That'll let you carry on with.
the second biggest thing that's just affecting, well, it's affecting the world kind of, but like just America right now, is the election news. Somehow we have entered the hostile negotiations with Trump, and his demand is that he will not leave until all the electoral votes are confirmed. Which I don't understand why we're even listening to this guy anymore. It just sucks that we're being laughed at.
Oh yeah, of course. Well,
And,
what sucks is he is putting democracy in jeopardy, and we're the ones that are trying to spread it across the world, like saying, "Hey, this is the way to go," and he's making it look like a shit show that you can't trust, just like elections in places like Russia or whatnot. So, good luck spreading it now. They're just going to point back to this election.
Yeah. Well, then one of the funnier things is he got called on this electoral vote thing, and he actually said, "You can't talk to the president like that. That's no way to talk to the president."
Yeah, he said, "I'm the president of the United States," and that. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just laughing.
I say that's another lesson from a TV show's time, Game of Thrones, which I guess you all probably didn't watch. Is
that Jeffrey?
Yeah, when King Joffrey says, "I'm the king," and his advisor Tywin says, anyone who has to say they're the king is not actually the king. So much to tell President Trump that, like, anyone who has to demand that they're the president isn't actually the president. And I wish that reporter, when he said, "I'm the president of the United States," I wish that reporter had said something like, "Not for much longer."
Yeah, that'd been great.
Yeah, give him that, like, when Trump did that one-liner to Hillary, like, otherwise you'd be in jail. Like, you all remember that? Yeah. This is later on in my notes, but I'm going to bump it up a little bit. I had a buddy named Jeremy Davis, and we knew each other. We met when we were in 7th grade, and when I was in 7th grade, that's when the election between the elder Bush and Clinton took place, and Clinton won. And we were going through that transition period, and and Jeremy actually asked a history teacher, how come the outgoing president just doesn't cause a whole bunch of crap before he leaves? Because what does it matter? And then the history teacher actually had a nerve to say, "Hey, that's why we don't let little boys named Jeremy Davis be president." Now, Jeremy passed away over the summer, and I wish I could remember that history teacher's name, because I almost wanted to demand an apology on behalf of Jeremy because of that, because Jeremy kind of had the foresight to see this happening. Because if he thought that, it's sort of like when we're talking about the 28 days later thing, where guys, if he thought that, somebody else surely should have thought that, and should be concerned about that. But,
oh yeah.
I digress.
It's weird that we vote for a president in November, and then they sit for nearly 3 months before handing it over.
I mean, I guess it gives them a little bit of time to.
Well, you got to make sure that the process is finalized.
Yeah. Well, then I think it's supposed to give them time to clean things up and finalize some things, not so much turn into a fucking tornado and wreck things. It also generally has been they get a little pardon crazy.
Yeah.
Not so much in a bad way, but they finally they sit down and take time to look at these potential pardons. Usually criminal cases, not like things close to them or their confidants or anything like that. But
yeah. Oh sure. Well, then he held a 1-minute press conference. In the 1-minute press conference, he made no mention of the coronavirus.
Yep.
His big focus was the Dow crossing 30,000 for the first time ever, which probably had something to do with those 5 vaccine companies all coming up with having something to promote last week. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think the Dow goes up every year because of Black Friday. Because they just anticipate all kinds of the businesses doing good business on Black Friday.
Yeah.
All right, and then further Trump news in this part of the election part was at Camp David they had a big fire pit with all the Trump family except for the big man himself But it was kind of frustrating because the recently positive Donald Trump Jr. was there without a mask, and they're just all sitting there smiling at the camera. And it's just like, that's the biggest insult because Camp David wasn't. That's just meant for, like, the president, not his fucking family.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think I'd read where he said he's like, I'm over all this Rona business, and went there like 2 days after he tested positive.
Yeah. But fucking, it sucks because, like, I don't know. I shouldn't wish bad on people, but I really don't. I have a special hate in my heart for that family. But in the Wisconsin recount that Trump paid a lot of money for, it was discovered that there were more votes for Joe Biden than previously accounted for. So, good news on that front that he wasted money. I don't know.
Biden got like another 128 votes or something like that.
Yes, I mean it was, and finally, well, not finally, but like the last part about Trump was. Did you all see the picture of him at the little desk?
Yeah.
Yes.
I've got a theory about this, and it's something like how they kind of fudge the numbers like in his physical, because I don't think he wants to hear that he's obese, even though he's clearly obese. And I can say he's obese because I'm an obese man myself.
Yeah.
But somehow he keeps growing, which is something that doesn't happen to 70-something-year-old people, right? And I think what they do is like, okay, well, we can't call fat ass obese, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna make it seem like he's growing. So they kept giving him a smaller desk and fucking with his tailoring. So yeah, it must be growing clearly. All right, so I bet you his last physical, it's like, okay, well, he's not obese, but if he wasn't 8'4", he'd be an obese guy.
Yeah. Yeah, but that same doctor that said he's like the healthiest president ever.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, the thing is, and I don't want to knock it because I have shitty eating habits myself, but his McDonald's meal is amazing. Did y'all hear about this? It's two Big Macs, 2 filet of fish, a large Diet Coke because you gotta watch those calories, and a large fry. And his reason, he eats it with a fork, right? And he doesn't eat any of the buns, but but that's a lot of fucking meat.
Yeah.
And and can you imagine and that's not a theory that I've had recently because how he keeps talking about flushing toilets, and having to keep flushing the water pressure and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it's all because of those meaty dumps that he's been taking. Because
those are babies. That's a baby a day right there. Two Big Macs are what? Special. 2 Big Macs are probably, half a pound, I would think. And the fish fillets are, they're not that thick. They're half an inch thick, I think, at each.
Yeah.
And then the fries on top of that, that's at least probably a pound and a half of food.
It reminds me of McDonald's had their quarter pounder. And I think it was Burger King that came out with a third a pounder. And because people are so fucking dumb, they didn't realize that was more meat, and so it didn't sell well.
See, man, take a sip of water. Now,
and so that table too. So or that desk, is it? I want to know. Is it one of the antique White House desk? James Madison was 5'5", 5'6", maybe. Was it his little baby desk? That they just grab a desk and bring it in here,
and they just it looked like they just slapped a seal on it real quick.
Yeah,
to make it look official, not it looked like it was a desk that probably sits in a hallway, on the wall or something. And has plants and shit on it, fake plants.
where it has the old water basin things that they used to have before, they had sinks and shit like that.
Yeah, there's a little wash table.
Now, the last thing about Trump, besides a hypothetical question, he pardoned General Flynn, but there's no news on Snowden, no news on Julian Assange, and no news on Reality Winner, which is complete horseshit. Because that's that's actually some good that he could do that would actually. There'd be no repercussions for him to do that. It'd actually be a good thing that would look good for Trump, but I don't think he's going to do it.
Nah, it doesn't benefit him.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that coin, we got Biden pissing on progressives. Have you all seen like how he's stocking his cabinet? He's stocking his cabinet with a whole bunch of people that were in the Obama cabinet, which got us Trump to begin with, because the whole point of that is just like, okay, we're gonna do as little as possible to keep our jobs, which I can respect, but like not when there's people depending on you. But what are you gonna do? And like a thing that Biden kept saying, and like is that he wants to be president at heels, and like he wants to smooth over the divide in our country. But like if you all have recently checked out Parler or not, the new alt right. I get screenshots on Twitter because I'm afraid to sign up for it because it recently got hacked. Because it's funny because like all these people are afraid to be registered for their guns. Willingly gave their social security number to a social media site.
You got to use your social security number to sign up?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
God. What idiots.
Oh
yeah. I don't want to. I mean, aside from that, I'll never sign up, especially because of that. But aside from that, I don't want to be attached to something that may eventually become like a terrorist organization or a extremist, flag this an extremist organization.
Well, I mean, just could you imagine, like, because I'm on Twitter and I really don't like it that much, because I don't understand. I'm more of a Facebook guy because of the interactions. But like, could you imagine just talking to somebody and then I talked to this nice kid a couple weeks ago. He seemed like a pleasant young guy. Yeah, that was Kyle Rittenhouse. He ended up murdering people. Yeah, it was Timothy McVeigh. He blew up a federal building.
Yeah.
But
I'm hoping that all those that gave Social Security numbers, I'm hoping those Social Security numbers are going to find illegal immigrants that are coming over and need to do actual work here, make our country better.
Now, and like the thing is, and this involves both of the outgoing and incoming president. Do you think Trump is just starting all these little fires just on his way out, just as a fuck you to America, or a fuck you to Joe Biden?
I think it's still a fuck you to Obama. He has some kind of crazy hatred for Obama, and I'm sure it's Biden too. But what was the thing we were talking about the other day where they were pulling out of the Open Skies Treaty, and then Trump was also pushing for them to destroy the planes they used for that for like no reason whatsoever, just so like when Biden gets in, he couldn't restart it or not easily restart it.
Well, because something was brought up to me, and it seems like it makes sense. Like it makes sense to me, but again, the shit that makes sense to me is not the shit that necessarily makes sense to the rest of the world. But like all these people that Trump is firing and he's replacing with other people, can't Biden just go in and just like rehire other people back?
Yeah.
It just seems like it's pointless. It's not like any appointed position can be refilled by anybody else who has the power to appoint it, right?
Yeah, and there was I can't remember what this guy's title was, but he was the one that said that after he investigated, said this is the most secure election in history, and Trump fired him. And then they did an interview with him after he was fired, and he was just like denounced, like shitting all over all the baseless conspiracy theories that Trump had about fraud and all that crap. I mean, we all know that, but
What else you got, Will?
Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
All right, sorry, I lost you all for a second. That one was kind of blatant. There's no way Trump could hide like why he fired that guy. Because it was blatant. It's like, yeah, this was the safest election we've ever had, and then like the next day he got fired.
Yeah.
And I don't know. But anyway, that's the shittier side of the news. positive news in our rare sports section, because I'm not much of a sports guy.
Yeah.
We had a couple exhibition fist fights, boxing matches last night.
Yeah.
The first one was a former NBA player, Nate Robinson, taking on Jake Paul, YouTube celebrity, and he got knocked the fuck out. And then Jake Paul starts calling out two very qualified UFC fighters, Dylan Dennis and Conor McGregor, which is weird because, I don't think that the Nate Robinson, as good an athlete as he is, I mean, he was a pretty good ball player.
Yeah.
Not really that great of a boxer, and nowhere near it's not like you. It's not that impressive of a victory.
I don't know. I know Nate Robinson, small guy that can dunk. Was Jake? How big is Jake Paul? I didn't watch the fight.
He's not. I mean, he's a little bit taller than him. He's just. Oh, okay. If you see either Jake Paul or Logan Paul, they're exactly the kind of mall kids that you would hate to see. Coming to. If you own a business, you're like, not these fucking kids again.
Yeah.
And somehow, these people have
some shit.
Somehow these guys, have the biggest podcast in the world. It's amazing to me because I've tried watching them, and it's like watching a TMZ show. It's miserable. But the other thing in the fight was Mike Tyson took on Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah.
And somehow it was a draw, which I saw that fight, and Roy Jones looked like after he got hit pretty good that one or two times, it looked like he was just on his bicycle, trying to okay, I need to keep whatever dignity I have left. But I kept seeing Twitter exploded with stupidity. People were saying, Tyson's back! Tyson's back! Let's see him take on Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder. Dudes that are more than half of his age and actively fight more. This is the first time Tyson has fought in many years.
15 or something years.
Yeah. And again, I'm not. Roy Jones Jr. was probably one of the best, top 10 fighter of all time. He hadn't been the same in a long time. I mean, when they had to basically force him to retire because he kept getting knocked out. Because he just. Once they figured out the code, everybody kept knocking him out. It was depressing. And it's just not the same. And they shouldn't be allowed to do these stunt boxing things because somebody's gonna end up getting hurt. I mean, the way Nate Robinson got knocked out.
Yeah.
I mean that. I'm surprised. I think he had to get stretchered out, which is not for a celebrity boxing thing. I don't think you want that to happen.
Well, it was brutal because the way he was fighting, he just kept lunging and charging Jake Paul, and they kept getting tied up like a wrestling match, and eventually the ref got tired of splitting up. He's like, guys, what are we doing here? We need you on a box. And he lunged at Jake Paul, and Jake Paul knocked him out. And he basically did a Superman flight onto his face on the mat. And it was a brutal fucking landing. The Mike Tyson fight, though, I thought was great. It was much better than I thought it'd be. And, we had some of us were on there talking on Facebook about it, and I kind of agree with what some people are saying that I think he could take on some people that are currently boxing. They're younger, not the top tier guys, of course, but he didn't look bad. He looked better than I expected for his age, and they both lasted 8 rounds, even though most of it was Roy Jones Jr. just kind of trying to hug Michael to waste time. But
yeah,
it's depressing because I don't know if you guys ever watched Roy Jones in his prime. He was a beautiful boxer. I mean, he was so fast and so talented, and he did something he did the crazy thing where he had he went up to fight in the heavyweight division, and he actually won a heavyweight title, and then while he had the heavyweight title, I think he tried to go back and defend his cruiserweight title. So I mean, he's always challenging himself, and he was so good that most boxers they keep their hands up to cover their face and but he was so fast he didn't do that. He was something else, and he took on all the greats of his era. It sucks because at one point like him and Bernard Hopkins, that fight could have saved boxing, but egos got involved, and they both thought that like they deserved more, the bigger part of the purse. And when it finally it happened, but it was too late because they were well past their prime. The final thing in the news, it was just fascinating because I started looking this guy up. Diego Maradona, he passed away, the soccer player. Did you all hear about this?
Mm-mm.
This guy, like it's fascinating Wikipedia page because he could probably have like 8 or 9 movies based on his life, just certain aspects of it because he's a sports star, he's a coach, he's like maybe not the Michael Jordan of football, but probably like the Akeem
Michael
Olajuwon
Jordan
one.
of football.
I mean, well,
I know what you meant. I know what you meant. Yeah.
uh,
Oh
they
yeah,
call
football. Yes, never mind. I wasn't thinking.
Portals.
Sorry. I was like, well, stroking out, and then I realized he's not. I am.
well, no, it's weird calling it football, just because it's soccer, but I which is funny. That's an American thing to do. We basically we stole that game, and like in football, like the American football, they don't really do much with their feet.
Yeah.
They punt and they kick extra, and like the thing is, those things can kind of be clipped, and it really won't hurt the game at all that much.
Well, it used to be. So the reason that people are like, why is it called football? Even like kids these days don't do sports like we do sports. I mean, everybody grew up on this. Will, did you play a sport, a youth sport?
Nah, I was band geek.
Okay, well, you banged. Okay, yeah. But most kids our age played sports. Most of the kids I know our age played a sport. Yeah, Lucas never had. Some other kids never have. Like kids don't play the sports like the way we used to. You get signed up for youth sports all the time. I bring that up because shit. How'd I lose my focus already?
Football. Well,
Because so kids are like. So my nephew comes in and goes, "You're watching football. Why is it called football? They never use their feet except for running around." And it was at one point in time you'd score, and that would be your 1 point, and you get more of your points from kicking. So it was a lot more foot heavy sport early in its younger days. So this is a little tidbit there, but yeah, I was always confused as to why it was football, especially when there was a sport already in existence known as football.
For stupid Americans.
Yes.
Well, it's so and again, maybe it's me being an arrogant American asshole, but it's the rest of the world uses the metric system, and we're on our system here. It just and it's the same thing. Football and how we measure shit are the two things that we're in the minority of, and we probably should be joining the rest of the world. All right,
Metric system would be amazing.
All right, there's some other shit in the news, and that's how I wrote down. Chadwick Boseman would be 44 today if if he had passed away earlier this year.
Yeah.
And I recently rewatched 42, and have y'all seen that?
I gotta watch it. I'm a big sports movie guy, and I've not seen that.
It's a great baseball movie, and it's a great story anyway. But it's great like 8 Man Out or Bull Durham or Field of Dreams. It's really good. I mean, and he's such a good actor, and it sucked because everybody's got just known for his Black Panther for the rest of existence. But it's sort of like the Heath Ledger thing with Joker. There's so much good shit that he did before that gets overshadowed by his young death, and that one character. Now, this is something else that happened. Last night, David Prowse passed away. David Prowse, I think that's how to say his name. He's the dude that actually played Darth Vader physically. I knew him as he was the muscular looking guy with glasses and Clockwork Orange, but is it possible that there could be a more famous actor that nobody actually saw?
Yeah.
But the character that he played is everybody knows who he is. So can you all think of anybody else close to that?
I mean, to someone with such international fame too. I mean, it's a character that'd be like if Mickey Mouse was a live action thing, and no one knew who played Mickey Mouse. I mean, Darth Vader's everywhere, and this guy could walk down the street without even being bothered. It's amazing.
I mean, the only thing that was odd about him, like, when because we have a really tall friend named Ken, was David Prowse. Like, he was a big. I mean, he's a giant. I mean, not like a 8 foot tall giant, but he's a pretty big, solid guy. Two other things in the news that I found were interesting. 57 years ago today, which is November 29th, Earl Warren started the Warren Commission on the JFK assassination, which that seems kind of quick because Kennedy got shot on the 22nd, right?
I believe so. Yep.
And he died on the 23rd. So, like, 6 days later, they said they were ready to set up a commission. Because
you're gonna start. I mean, you're gonna start it as soon as possible.
What? But the thing is, I don't think that, like, he wouldn't. It just seems like they would start something like that. I don't know. They probably didn't do a good job. I mean, if it was conspiracy, which I don't know. Like, as I got older, I go back and forth between it being conspiracy and not. This seems kind of shady that, like, that they had, like, all that shit ready, like, like, and I don't even think they buried him yet. Like, this time, like, 57 years ago, because they kept him alive, even though, like, half of his skull and most of his brain was missing for like 24 hours. Really good book called 4 Days in November by Vincent Bugliosi. I highly recommend if you guys want to read up on it. Although there's been people that call bullshit on that book too. And the last thing of interest, because we're all video game guys, Pong got released 48 years ago. And that's the news.
No, it's amazing. One of the first big games, right? Pong.
It was the first mainstream game, yeah, for sure. I mean, there was other, games that were played on oscilloscopes and set up on MIT computers, but I mean, Pong was what made it to the bars and arcades, and I mean, arcades still, even before video games obviously were a thing between pinball machines and other mechanical playing devices, but I mean, Pong changed it. And it's weird to me that Pong, if you look at like the early 70s, in the earliest days of Atari, is like the earliest games of Atari, there's Pong clones. That was all these things were. It was like, we have tennis. Like, oh, this is. We have this. No, that it's not hockey. It's just Pong. Like it's so funny, but like they sold. It was gangbusters. It's crazy. It's only been 40 years. I mean, I'm 48 years. I'm 40 years old, and to think that, like, truly, I mean, people think of those other games as the birthplace of video games, but for people like Nolan Bushnell, founder of Atari, like, he's the daddy of video games. Yeah. And to a lot of people, that, like, really, I mean, Pong to them, if you're looking for the X letter word that solves the crossword of the first video game, people think Pong. So, but to think that it's only 48 years old, like, I feel like it was much earlier. With me growing up with 8-bit Super Mario Brothers, Pong is caveman. That was a Neanderthal to.
It's the same age as The Godfather, which when The Godfather got released. It's so crazy.
5 years or older than New Hope, and that felt like forever ago too. So we're just getting old, I guess.
It was amazing to me just because, like, in Vice City they make fun of the Atari, and and they advertise a commercial on the thing where it's like, you're the elusive blue square and you're chasing down the red triangle, like, and that's how video games were back then.
Yeah, try to put like a story to it.
Well, and even though it's, I mean, like, he probably doesn't get. I think his name is David Crane. He's the guy who invented Pitfall.
Yeah.
Like, he was the first one to actually kind of figure out how you kind of make a person with just a couple like little sprites, and 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 what we got now, I saw Yakuza the newest trailer dropped a couple days ago, and I'm not a big fan of that game, but I don't know if you all seen it or not, but it looks fucking crazy, and it doesn't look like a video game.
It's crazy, man. I don't know what Call of Duty is going to look like in 10 years if we like if our brains can play it. Like to me, like eventually Call of Duty and Battlefield and shooters are going to be reserved only for psychopaths. Because I mean, graphics are so turned up now that I mean,
Well, it's like
like Jesus Christ.
there's a funny meme, and I don't know if it's real or not, if it was staged, but it's like it starts off like it's like a video. It's like girl walking through her house. It's like I think my boyfriend's a psychopath or something. She like comes around the corner of the hallway, and like her boyfriend's doing virtual reality. So he's got his headset on, he's got his hands, and it looks like he's just doing this. And but then the TV on the side shows what he's doing, and he's just like holding some guy's head and just smashing it into the ground. Like the dude's clearly been dead already, and he's just like over and over smashing it.
Like I mean, we see blood spurt and everything else, but we're not far from like literally taking an axe in a VR environment and chopping certain parts of body off. You know, like full on dissection in a shooter is not that far off.
It's all because of that darn dastardly Mortal Kombat, by golly, and Doom.
Night Trap, son of a bitch.
Was it Night Trap?
Yeah, Night Trap and Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
is there ever been a game that's been more referenced, but few people have played as Night Trap?
oh man, so they came on. There was a Switch version. I guess they did a remaster, and I guess it's probably on Steam too. But they did Night Trap remastered, and I got to the scene where what it was, you know, for what the reason that it is known, and it is so comical. I mean, literally, it's like watching Saved by the Bell. It's not.
It's like super tame and just stupid, but
Yeah. It's like a mixture. It's like if you had Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and they captured the Pink Ranger in lingerie.
yeah.
They grab her, they're grabbing her by her wrist and they're trying to drag her away, but they're not like stripping her down. Like Congress had you believing that they stripped her down and penetrated her, you know, in every orifice she has.
So it's like rape and then like vicious rape scene and then like dismemberment and everything.
Yeah, and then nope, they just grabbed her arm and put her in a closet essentially. Like that's the scene.
Yeah.
Well, also while that was going on, when Congress was wasting their fucking time, the same kids that they were trying to protect were watching the news and they were watching people get burned to death on Waco, and so,
Yeah.
like, you know, which is weird because they're that concerned about the children seeing. I mean, the fucking blood in Spider-House or Mortal Kombat is comical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more. I mean, it's like, you know, Mighty Python-ish. It's Three Stooges-ish. Like, you know, like there's. I don't know.
Well, I remember because I was a Nintendo person and Sega Genesis had the real I think it was Mortal Kombat 1 or I think it was 2 I was thinking of. They had the real one, and then on the Super Nintendo, it was sweat instead of blood. It's like when you threw, you know, Scorpion's harpoon and it went in someone's chest, some sweat would burst out. And I remember I had one of those Game Genie things, and you could use one of those Game Genie things to turn it back red so it looked like actual blood.
The fatalities are still there, right?
I can't remember. I think maybe some of them weren't. You know, it's all stupid.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, we've unofficially segued into like 3 of my picks today. If you guys are ready, I'm ready to discuss. And I don't know how to word this properly. I guess our top 5 movies under the radar, movies that.
Well, maybe not top 5 because this is one of those things.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like a worst to best or.
Yeah.
Just 5 movies.
5 movies that each of us think are good that people might not have seen.
Yeah, I like that. That's the way to say it. So how are we gonna do this? I forgot the last time we did
Should we just do like what's your 5th and?
Yeah, we did 5 all around, 4 all around, 3 all around.
Sure.
Okay. So who wants to go first? D, you go first.
No, we'll make Will go first. Some bitch.
I want to hear Will's because we've hyped up Will as our film historian. And
The thing is, I feel like I let you all down, like with the horror movies, because they're all somewhat mainstream. Although I think Serpent and the Rainbow probably isn't, but that's another day. Did y'all ever? I bought Heredity and Cabin in the Woods because of you guys, and
Nice.
they're in a stack of movies to be watched.
they're in the queue.
Yeah.
I tried to get through. I don't do voodoo, and I tried my Serpent and the Rainbow, and I got about halfway through it. I am going to finish it one of these days, but
No, because you get too erect and you can't stop just flailing on your.
yeah, just wearing it out.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my gosh.
You're like, all right, that's 7 times. Like, I got to stop this movie or I'm going to have some issues.
Well,
Just auto jacking.
well, and also like one of the more amazing things is, and it's something I think that like we should probably invest multiple podcasts about. Like the year 1988 in movies is crazy because Serpent and Rainbow came out within months of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I can't imagine like that like two forms of entertainment that came out there could be considered the same kind of entertainment that were completely different.
It's like a perfect double feature for kids.
All right, now are we going? We're going 5-1, right?
Yeah, 5-1.
I mean, but they're not ranked, so I guess we just pick one and go with it.
Mine are somewhat ranked, but
Okay, mine
whatever.
aren't, so I'm just going to shoot them out there.
So what's your fifth, Will?
My fifth is a movie called Deep Crimson. It's a Mexican movie, and it's by a director named Arturo Repstein. Now, it's based on. It's kind of a remake of a movie called The Honeymoon Killers. Have you guys ever heard about these movies?
Nope.
All right, it's based on a real life story, which we should probably look into and do a show just about this. It's called. They were the Lonely Heart Killers. Like back before Craigslist and and chat rooms and stuff like that, they have want ads, and they would actually have magazines just full of people that were like lonely, and they were like, hey, looking to meet somebody, here's my PO box number. Well, this fucking psychopath went around and like he'd get lonely widows and he'd murder them and steal their money and shit like that. And like this girl, like in all the versions of the story, it was always this heavy set nurse who was kind of unattractive. She got this guy, and like when he found out that she didn't have any money, he still had sex with her, and she became subservient to him. And like when he told her about the scam, you think that like that would freak most women out, but she's like, oh, he's so dreamy, and she actually dropped her kids off at the Salvation Army to because she didn't want the kids getting away.
Yeah.
And like the movie is really cool because like Arturo Repstein, the director, he does very long takes. Each scene's like 7 to 10 minutes, and it's the camera moves, but it just, and it's like a stage play, and it's filmed kind of like a Hitchcock's Rope or how 1917 or Birdman was filmed. It's he's a hidden director, and like he should be as famous as Pedro Almodovar or Guillermo del Toro. But like it's there's another movie based on the thing that had John Travolta and Salma Hayek in it, and it is called Lonely Hearts. But it's not that good because Salma Hayek's one of the most beautiful women on the planet, and they tried to ugly her up by just giving her like a unibrow kind of thing, and and the girl that they got in the Honeymoon Killers, she's just a heavyset lady. The woman, the thing I think I like the most about Deep Crimson is that both the characters, they don't look like movie stars. They just happen to be like normal looking people, and they kind of ugly the girl up a little bit, but it's not like Charlize Theron and Monster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go on it and check that out. I don't do so. I'm slowly working across the world. Right? We talked about how we don't watch soccer here in the States. Very focused on our own shit. I don't think I've looked down South America really at all. I've got a couple things on my server to watch that I've been wanting to watch to get into, but
Oh no, this is Mexican. I mean, this is like this is not South America.
well, yeah, I was trying.
South of the border.
Does North America end at Mexico?
Yeah,
For some
that's
reason I was thinking North America ended it. It was like Canada and yeah, never mind.
it's all right.
Yeah, that's the line. That's the line I'm talking about, though. Will, yeah,
Okay.
the Spanish-speaking countries to our south. There we go.
Well, no, the thing is, like this, the guy's got other great movies, but like this is the one that I actually enjoyed the most. I've watched multiple times.
Gotcha.
All right, who's next?
Be you, Barry.
All right. So mine, I've realized this. So we've talked about Will being our film critic, who knows a little bit about, I mean, a lot about everything. I think Derrick's expertise is probably what 75 and on. Like you don't do that many old movies whatsoever. And I think I'm surface like across the board. I think it's my because I was looking at this going like, what movies haven't people seen that I love a lot. So there's a couple of movies that are on here, just they're old but are well known, but not to most modern audiences because people don't give a shit about old movies as much anymore. But this is one of the few that's new-ish that people have like, yeah, I've seen that, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyway. And it's The Dream Team. I made Derrick watch it 20 years ago.
I don't even remember it. What's the Dream Team?
So it's the one with Michael Keaton, Christopher Lloyd, Boyle, and I think it's Stephen First. It's the one where it's one of Michael Keaton. You got Batman, you got Beetlejuice, got Mr. Mom, Multiplicity.
Yeah,
Christopher Lloyd, you got Back to the Future, Addams Family. I mean, these are people that people know. But there are 4 mental patients that Michael Keaton's character talks to doctors that run the asylum into taking them to a Yankees game. Remember that? And it's just a nice little comedy. They get to New York, and I think maybe they stopped for the doctor to go pee or something. He gets out and sees 2 crooked cops kill another officer. And I think the 2 crooked cops chase him down, like maybe beat him up before maybe some other cops show up. Something happens, but he goes to the hospital. The 4 mental patients are kind of like stuck in New York, and they have no idea what to do. Michael Keaton has his most wits about him. He's kind of crazy. He's got a violent temper. Christopher Lloyd's character, I can't remember if he thinks
he's like a doctor or something.
He's a doctor. Peter Boyle's character, he thinks he's Jesus.
Isn't he like the muscle too?
Oh yeah, he's a big dude. I mean, and then Stephen First is kind of like a man child that he's kind of
yeah.
He's got his issues. But it's just the 4 of them and their misadventures throughout New York City.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's just one of those things that it's not mentioned on like Keaton's list. And I always find it to be one of his best. So D, what is your 5th?
I gotta find the year real quick to make sure, so my number 5 is a horror movie called Absentia from 2011, and I think I caught it on Netflix originally. It's like this girl's husband just disappears one day, and I can't remember if she's pregnant or she has a really young kid. And it's like, maybe a year later or whatever, and her sister comes to live with her or spend some time with her. And then like all this weird stuff starts happening. Trying to figure out how to talk about it without giving anything away. But just like weird stuff, like things coming out of the walls and stuff like that. And just a pretty damn good, like under the radar horror movie.
You've brought it up before, and that was one of the ones. I think it was an honorable mention. One of Will's favorite honorable mentions for the top 5 horror movies. I think.
But look, it's a simple thing. Like, I hate when people like, because there's a video I was watching today. Right, this guy like he did a top 10 list, and between 2 and 1, he goes, "I got honorable mention," and like and he ended up naming like 8 other things. So his top 10 list had 18 picks in it. You don't get like there's no. I hate when people do that. Like if you want to make a top 18 list, make it a top 18 list. But anyway, go ahead.
So Will, I think we're on Will's fourth.
Yep.
Yes. All right. This one's a odd pick. Well, they're all odd picks, but this one, it's called Doc. It's a telling of the story of Doc Holliday from the '70s, and most tellings of it, he's usually a minor character in the Wyatt Earp story. This is a reverse of it. Wyatt Earp's a small character in his story, and it's all just about when he finally meets up with Wyatt Earp. It's an interpretation of Wyatt Earp I've never seen before. The guy who plays him, I can't remember his name, but he's the bent cop in Scarface.
Stacy Keach?
Yeah. He's the one who plays Doc.
I wonder if I've seen this.
It's great. I mean, Faye Dunaway's in it, and it's a cool movie because Stacy Keach actually looks like when he has a coughing fit, you think that okay, well, Stacy Keach knew he was going to die before the after they ended making this movie, so he wanted to make it count and play a character who's dying. That's how convincing he was. I mean, this is in the '70s too, and there's a great scene where he and Faye Dunaway, they just got done eating beans, and they're camping out in the fire. And it's one of the few romantic scenes I've ever seen that's centered around like a guy telling the lady don't fart. But the OK Corral fight is it's really, I mean, it's probably the more realistic version of it because in all the Tombstone and the Wyatt Earp and gunfight at OK Corral, it was this big gunfight. But in all reality, like OK Corral was like 9 dudes, standing across from each other, shooting at each other. It's not going to last long. But yeah, it's an underrated western. I don't even think Stacy Keach. I don't think he's that big of a fan of it. But I think it's a cool movie.
I'm trying to figure out why. I mean, people our age know him, and I'm not seeing anything that's pops out to me on his filmography, but he seems to be in a little bit of everything. He's just one of those guys that just seems like I saw him from a distance. I clicked the link, the image, and I was like, oh yeah, that guy. Know him immediately. Just couldn't tell you where in the world I found him, where I saw him last.
Well, he's one of those dudes. He crosses all kinds of boundaries because dudes our age, we know him because he's the American History X. He's a guy who recruits Edward Norton and Edward Furlong.
Yeah.
Like the people our parents' age, we know him because all those great westerns they did in the '60s and '70s, and and he was the guy who's always after Cheech and Chong.
That's why I know. Yeah.
And then he played Chris Titus's dad on the Titus TV show.
Mm-hmm. I saw him on a couple of the Civil War miniseries in the '80s.
Yeah.
I remember Escape from L.A.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's a very cool actor. He's when they talk about great old guys in movies, they talk about Hackman and Duvall. But Stacy Keach, I think deserves to be talked about like that.
Yeah. Nice dreams. There you go. So my fourth, and it's one of those things that my list is a very shitty list, and I say that because almost everything on my list has a major star in it. This one in particular is one of the largest stars from the 40s, but it's not one of the movies that people think about. There's not really movies that people think about when they think of Abbott and Costello, but I really love Hit the Ice from 1943. So during World War II, Abbott and Costello were the highest paid entertainers in the States. Everybody knows them for Who's on First, but they did a set of movies for Universal, or not a set, like a huge run from like I think 40 to about, gosh, somewhere in the 50s. I think their Universal run ends. But I grew up knowing who's on first because I played baseball, and I had some coach that was like, you know who's on first, and he went through the routine, and I was laughing my ass off as like 11-year-old. And then Jerry Seinfeld did a special because they were some of his biggest influences. They did a 1994 TV special where he showed them like kind of like the best of and explained some of their jokes and like the history behind them. But this is a standard. It's a standard Abbott and Costello. I mean, they use very similar bits over and over again in their movies. I mean, if you watch their entire catalog, you're like, oh, I know this one. I know this one. You know, it's like they're playing all the hits. But it's just the two of these guys, photographers. There's a bank robbery that's about to happen. I think they get called out. What are they doing? A friend of theirs is going to some fire at this building, and they get there. They're trying to take. They're photographers. So they try to take pictures of the fire, and then all of a sudden, one of them's injured, and they go to the hospital, and somehow they meet this gangster who's laid up in the hospital, and it's going to be his motive, or not his motive, but it's just going to be his alibi that he's stuck in the hospital. So surely he couldn't rob the bank across the street. Well, he's been waiting on these two gangsters from Detroit to come in to help them out with the bank robbery. So they inadvertently show up in his room I can't remember why, but they're like, Are you the guys I'm waiting on? Like, yeah, sure, yeah. It's like, what have you been doing? It's like, well, I've been shooting people. We've been shooting people all day. They're like, you've been shooting people already? It's like, yeah, shot some cops. And, you know, it's standard Abbott and Costello shtick, but I think that no one in today's world, people younger than us, really appreciate Abbott and Costello. So, but it turns into, they go to like this nice, there's some good train scenes, and they go into this, like this resort, snow-covered resort for some skiing and stuff like that. And it's just one of my favorite Abbott and Costellos. And, but yeah, funny that I put it on my list of movies that people have not really watched. That, you know, 80 years ago, if you hadn't seen this, you're probably some lunatic that never watches movies. These were the stars of their day.
All right, I guess my number, unless anybody has anything to add, I guess my number 4 is a movie called Detention. Also, ironically, from 2011. This one was on Netflix at one time. I'm not sure if it was, and it's a movie that, like, I'm surprised wasn't big when it came out. It's got what is this guy's name? Josh Hutcherson or something. Yeah, Josh Hutcherson in it, and it's like a teenage comedy horror movie or something. That involves like a slasher and time travel. I don't know. It's really hard to explain, but it looked really dumb, but it's actually like really good. It's a really entertaining movie, and it's one of those movies that like most people I talk to haven't seen it, but when they see it, they really enjoy it.
It's like a horror version of Breakfast Club. Maybe?
Yeah. It's like a horror, more zany comedy version of Breakfast Club, because it involves like I guess a group of kids in detention and stuff, and so it involves like a mysterious masked slasher and time travel, and it's just wild. It's a fun ride movie is what it is.
Fun ride.
Creative people out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So is it back to me now?
Yep.
All right. My third pick is a movie called Cohen and Tate. This is a movie from '88. Basically, how it works. The guy who wrote there's a writer-director named Eric Red. Are you familiar with him?
I don't know if I am or not.
He wrote The Hitcher. He's friends with Catherine Bigelow, the woman who did The Hurt Locker.
Okay.
He co-wrote Near Dark with her, and he also co-wrote Blue Steel with her. Like he's just a very eccentric dude. I think he actually did time because of accidental vehicular homicide. I could be wrong though, but he wrote this really cool movie, and I found out about it. It was when all the videotape stores were closing when they switched over to DVD back in the mid 2000s. You could go buy like videotapes for 50 cents each. I bought it because I'm a big fan of Roy Scheider, and Roy Scheider and Adam Baldwin are the stars of this movie. They play Cohen and Tate. Adam Baldwin was the guy who he's a Firefly, and he was also in Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, he's one of those people that's like before Firefly, he was in like everything. Yeah. And you always see him play a lot of the same characters, but go on.
Yeah. Okay, and they play two hitmen. There's this little boy who witnessed a murder who's in witness protection, and they're in a small house, like just a house in the middle of nowhere in Texas. And it's one of the greatest opening scenes ever. These just two, Roy Scheider plays the older hitman, the professional, and Adam Baldwin's the loose cannon, plays by his own rules, let's kill them all kind of guy. And they kidnap this little boy. And most of the movie takes place inside of a car with a little boy in the back seat, and he's basically trying to Yojimbo these two, hitmen. Like he's making them. This little 8-year-old boy is fucking with these two grown ass men, and it's there's all kinds of cool scenes going on in the movie, and there's a recurring thing that happens. Roy Scheider has a hearing aid, and and it looks like a pretty cool character choice, but it actually plays into the movie later on. It's well worth watching because I've asked almost everybody I know if they've ever seen or heard this movie, and nobody's seen or heard of this movie. And I found out about I actually upgraded it to DVD. I bought a bootleg DVD of it a long time ago, just because I didn't have a VCR that worked anymore. And MGM did a vault release of it, and it's one of those manufacturer on demand disc, but it's priceless in my collection. I mean, it's just a unusual, cool hit. It seemed like it should have been made a comeback. When Tarantino revived the gangster hitman genre with Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction.
So it's funny that you how you describe the setup of this movie, because I never thought of Home Alone as Yojimbo. You know what I mean? I never thought of that as what that was. Let me get a drink real fast. I'm just next to the fridge, and
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
All right, start talking shit about Barry.
Fuck Barry.
Barry in his black and white movies.
So this is another funny one, where I've picked another film star that's bigger than Jesus for his time. It's a James Cagney movie. And D, I think I've made you watch this years ago, but it's A Man of a Thousand Faces.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's a biopic for Lon Chaney, who I guess was the best way to describe him was he was a man of a thousand faces, but he was Universal's Monster Man before Karloff and Lugosi. He was a silent film star from Phantom of the Opera, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Miracle Man, Penalty. You've seen the film is considered lost, London After Midnight, but you've seen the artwork from it. It's just one of those iconic early horror scenes. But the movie itself, 1957, Cagney plays Chaney, and it goes through his life story from everything from his vaudeville days, growing up with deaf parents, to his issues in his marriage, to having his son, Lon Chaney Jr., who later on becomes, everybody knows him as the Wolfman and other horror roles. But it's just, if you don't know anything about Lon Chaney, it's a biopic. It's not a, we're not reading an academic essay on Chaney. It's got some Hollywood touches to it. Not everything is accurate. But it's a great movie. It's one of my first Cagney movies that I saw. It was one of the first things that outside of the horror genre, still horror adjacent, I guess, since it's about Lon Chaney, that I watched that was in black and white. That was an old movie that kind of drew me further out of color and into black and white. the guy that directed it, little tidbit was he's tied for the most episodes directed of the original Star Trek series, which I thought was kind of cool. I think it's Joseph Pevney. I thought that was interesting. It was also nominated for the best original screenplay. It's a great movie. It's got some good stuff in it. And if you've never seen, if you can't sit through a silent film, they do a lot of, recreations of some of those classic scenes that, if you don't want to sit through 2 hours of Phantom of the Opera, you can at least see the unveiling when the mask comes off, or the crazy things that Chaney goes through to become the Hunchback. He literally has he's got like a chain or some sort of rope strap that attaches his shoulder to the other side of his body, where he literally can't be in it for too long or he'll fuck up his back. And the lengths he goes through to make himself up as the Phantom of the Opera, like the high cheekbones, the nose, all the stuff he does with his mouth. It's a great movie and it cool subject matter.
Before I don't want to step on you, D, but like that's for some reason that just popped in my head, that the Tower of London thing and Greed, the Eric von Stroheim movie. I can't figure out how they're lost movies. Did they just not value what they did back then?
Which Tower of London are you referring to?
The one that's a lost film.
Is it a silent? Because I mean,
yeah.
Okay, I don't know I've only seen the Universal version, but it's weird. Like I was going through a list yesterday of like we talked about sports films, because you mentioned 42, and I was going through a list of old sports movies. I love, for some reason, 30s and 40s football movies. I don't know why, but I was going through a list and I was
the leather helmets.
Say what?
With the leather helmets.
Oh hell yeah, man! So I was going through this list and I was like, I need to find this one. Maybe it's on YouTube. Nope, it's lost. Nope, it's lost too. Oh, it's lost as well. And it's crazy how many movies, like with Chaney, with London After Midnight.
That's why I'm sorry. I kept saying London After Midnight. That's the name of the movie, right?
Yeah, that's the one where he's got the top hat. Yeah.
Well, because there's something else that like amazes me. Like when we're talking about video games, we did our top 5 Nintendo games a couple episodes. Like I don't know if that ever got released or not, but like early movies and early Nintendo, like when they had the Super Nintendo, they just automatically assumed that nobody was going to play Nintendo anymore, so they didn't give a fuck about that library anymore. Yeah. And I can't figure out how creators could be this passionate about their creations. They fuck it, we spent the equivalent of like $60 million filming Greed. I mean, sure, it's an 8-hour movie back in those days, and nobody's going to be in the theater that long. Yeah, we'll cut down to 2 hours, and we'll throw everything else away. Like, I don't know why fuck around like that. Like, just... Or unless there's a vault somewhere that's got all this, that's going to be discovered, like, one of these days. We're like, holy shit. All these lost movies that we thought were gone forever are in this, like, just... Because they're finding Doctor Who episodes, like, in... Like, old BBC vaults, like in South Africa and stuff like that. Which
I think some of it's kind of like baseball cards. It's like, these people, these really old baseball cards, and kids, put them in the spokes of their bikes, and they never knew that like they would be popular or valuable. Well, not really the same thing, as those were more valuable because of the rarity, not so much that they were interesting. But it was kind of like like what if you're talking about London After Midnight? That's what 1927. So you're talking about crazy early days of film, and they may have thought that like, oh, these people see it, and then like who gives a crap after that?
What's crazy, I mean, I don't know about the medium itself, like the actual physical film, but I don't know what it takes to keep. I mean, I'd assume just a climate controlled area in a canister, maybe a dehumidifier. I don't know what keeps that film.
You hear all the time like fires and stuff that'll destroy all kinds of like originals and stuff. And
yeah, and then you got everything from, this was pre-code. So what type of environment were they living in? Because you got copies of it, right? You got masters, but like maybe the version of that's playing in Texas has a scene cut out because it gets a little risque for the audiences there. Like You would think that you'd have at least enough copies around floating
Well,
that somebody could put together something.
they're doing that as recently as Alien, from what I understand. Like the famous burster sequence in that.
Yeah.
There's projectionists that were cutting that scene out of it's just like, dude, that's the money shot.
Yeah. I mean, I think he has so many things going against it, like especially like like is there a single movie company that's around that was around back then? Movies companies that made all these movies and then they go out of business and someone buys up their crap and does God knows what with it. Probably just throws it all in a cardboard box.
We're talking Universal. We're talking. I mean, a lot of those brands are still
Yeah.
around. That's the weird part. That's the crazy part. But, yeah, it's shocking. And all the B roll or all the outtakes that are left on the floor. Will, what's your third?
Derrick.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So my number 3 is The Debt, which this one maybe a little more known and popular, but a lot of people I talk to have never seen it, and it's a 2010 movie. Funny, like all my movies are kind of around 2010, 2011. So this starred a huge actress, Helen Mirren, was in it, and it's about it's kind of cool because it traverses 2 timelines. You have you have Jessica Chastain that plays the young Helen Mirren, and it's basically about a group of Jewish operatives that are trying to capture this Nazi scientist, and it starts off back in like the early days when they're younger, and they kind of bungle it, and then it traverses back to modern times when they find him living in a or they think they find him living in a nursing home, and just a really good suspense movie, and it's just really interesting. You can't go wrong with Helen Mirren.
Well,
Chastain's great.
Barry, I didn't hear what you said, buddy.
I said Chastain is great too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, like, they're both fantastic actresses. Like, and Helen Mirren, like, I don't know how old she is, but she's still like stunningly beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, and she's got to be like probably in her 70s, like at least.
Yeah.
75.
Yeah. But anyway. All right.
Have either of y'all ever seen that movie? It's like one of the few ones on my list I think y'all might have seen.
No, the thing is, I haven't seen any of these movies that you all talk about. I haven't. For some reason, I think I saw Dream Team, but it doesn't seem like it would make sense because the guy you said played Jesus, Peter Boyle.
Mm-hmm.
There's a movie I can't remember, but like where he's in a church and he starts taking off his clothes.
That's it.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah,
so I have seen
He's
this.
all of his material possessions. He's just stripping down, and I think they throw him out in the streets.
Okay. Then I guess I have seen it. Then that's the only thing I remember about because he's a memorable guy.
Yeah.
All right, we're on number 2 now, right?
Yep.
My second, number 2 on that list is The Rosary Murderers. This is a movie from like the mid '80s. Fred Walton directed it. Fred Walton is he's an unheralded director that I think is really good. His first movie that he did, it was a short movie called The Sitter, and he remade it later as When a Stranger Calls. And that movie, When a Stranger Calls, which this could be like a future episode of our greatest openings to a movie ever. The first 30 minutes of When a Stranger Calls is absolutely fucking brilliant. And he was a hot director after that, but he kind of like I was reading up about him, and he just didn't. He's one of those guys. He just wanted to make movies. He didn't want to be like. He basically he had an opportunity to be like the '70s version of Tarantino, but he he basically just he kept it easy, and he actually wanted to like live a life that wasn't connected, where he just wanted to be make movies, but like that just be his job, not be his identity. But the Rosary Murders, Elmore Leonard wrote the screenplay for it, and y'all know who Elmore Leonard is, right?
Yeah, is a famous crime.
Yeah. He Justified, Get Shorty, uh, 52 Pickup, all these cool movies that like he. Uh,
Jackie Brown.
yes, Jackie Brown's one of his movies. Out of Sight's one of his movies. He just if it, he if it had Detroit in it, or South Florida, in a crime novel, chances are he wrote it, except for Justified, which is set in Kentucky.
Yeah.
But it's a string of these bizarre murders, and they're all like, they're all nuns and priests and stuff like that, and the murders leaving these black rosary beads like it is kind of a clue, and the Charles Durning and Donald Sutherland are the main actors in it, and it's wild because it's two old guys in the movie back then when like everybody's obsessed with youth in the mid '80s. And one of the bizarre things is that like the guy who's actually committing the murders is confessing the crimes to the priest, and because they have like the whatever the attorney.
Silence.
Yeah.
The vow of silence, the attorney privilege bullshit version of that for the church, that he can't really tell on them. But it's a pretty cool movie. I mean, it's one of those movies that like, if you saw the cover of it and you just saw Durning and Donald Sutherland on it, you'd be like, wow, this really doesn't look that good. But it's a really cool movie though. Because I'm not a big fan of religion stuff, but like like when it's used in murder mysteries, I'm all for it.
I mean that's so he. I guess he's doing it and then coming in and confessing and then going out and doing it more.
Yes.
Yeah, it does sound pretty cool. Never heard of that.
Yeah, I mean, like that guy's movies are well worth like getting into, but like that's those are 2 hour lists for other days, like underrated directors and great opening scenes.
Speaking of underrated directors, no, I'm just teasing. My next movie is Matinee, which I think I brought up before.
Yeah.
To me, it's just, I was looking at it and people are like, "Yeah, this is an okay movie." I feel like the acting in it is just bad, but people seem to be okay with it. I think it could be better. The Matinee is like an unofficial William Castle. It's not really a biopic. It's more or less just using him in this fictional universe. So the main character is a young kid. He's growing up in Key West on a military base with his little brother and his mom. His dad is in a Navy submarine off the coast, and this is right in the middle of the Cuban Missile Crisis. So Kennedy's in office. The Russians have sent nuclear weapons to Cuba for Castro, and so now we have nuclear weapons pointing at us 90 miles away, and that's the backdrop of this movie. And you've got the William Castle character, who is it's Lawrence Woolsey, played by John Goodman. D, I think I've made you watch this at one point in time years ago as well. But he's coming into town to show his newest movie, which is called Mant, which is a man ant. It's a giant like atomic age movie, but he's going to show it off in town, and you get a sense of like the dread that is the Cuban Missile Crisis and living that close to everything. The dread of his father being in the military and what's going to happen. Is there going to be war? The insane exercises that students do. They're like balling up under their desk in case a nuclear bomb hits their school.
Yeah.
Like
That'll help.
But it's great. It kind of gives you an insight, while fictionalized, of how William Castle operated and the showmanship that he showed in his movies. I think we talked about House on the Haunted Hill, where you've got flying skeletons that were set up in the theaters that would swing down at certain times to scare the audiences. Shockers underneath the seats.
So you're talking about Matinee from 1993 with John Goodman?
Yeah.
Huh.
But in this movie, Woolsey does some similar outrageous stuff to scare his audience, and but he's got the kid is like a big famous Monsters of Filmland fan, and Woolsey, being the showman that he is, has got these two actors that come into town to protest the movie's opening. And the kid realizes like they're actors and they usually work with this guy. So something's up because he's trying to drum up this protest to make people, for the advertisement of it all, right? So he's got this wild plan. Like I said, the kid wants to see the movie. He's got girlfriend problems at school. He's worried about his dad. He's worried about bombs dropping. It's a cool little movie that not many people saw. I think at the time, I saw that opening weekend, it was 6th in the box office for that weekend. But I mean, outside of me randomly picking it up on DVD sometime in the 90s, I probably would have never seen this movie. So really cool, fun. It's a comedy. I guess a comedy with a light drama, and for anyone that really likes that B movie feel, cool movie. Will, have you seen this before?
Yes, I have. It's weird that like it actually there's two connections to something I brought up previously this episode. Like in Matinee, one of the actors that who's one of the protesters, his name's John Sayles, and he's a fantastic writer director, and Mate Wan's one of his movies, and Lone Star's another one of his movies, and he wrote the screenplay for The Howling, which is a Joe Dante movie, who also directed Matinee. But he also wrote and directed Eight Men Out, which I brought up earlier when we were talking about baseball movies. Now, and when I bought Cohen and Tate, what that store that was going out of business, where they were selling off all their video stock. Mm-hmm. I bought a videotape of a movie called Popcorn. It's a slasher movie, and this actually, we should probably do a Matinee and Popcorn double feature episode, because Popcorn is that, I don't know if you all have seen it or not, but it's a slasher movie, and it's based about this drama club that they have a film festival, and they're showing like William Castle like movies, and like there's one called the mosquito, and this big thing swings out. It's a big mosquito that swings out like the skeletons in House on Haunted Hill, and then like there's a guy who gets shocked to death in an electric chair, and and they have vibrators in the thing, in the chairs, like the William Castle thing. It's weird that how that made me think of those two movies. But Matinee I like because John Goodman's a great actor. Mm-hmm. And it sucks that for a long time he just got pigeonholed as the guy that was on Roseanne. But the Coen brothers, that they knew how to use him, and I think he did a couple movies with Joe Dante. I'm not 100%. I could be wrong about that.
So Popcorn, I pulled this up, and this was one of those, being a video store kid in the 80s and 90s. I remember always looking at the horror section, and I remember thinking, like, I can't rent them. I'm not old enough. My mom won't let me watch them, or whatever the case may be. And I remember seeing this and always wanting to see it. Like, I see that cover.
Yeah, it's a great cover.
Yeah, it's an awesome-ass cover.
Yeah, so, I mean, and the thing is, I never put it together until you start bringing up William Castle. I'm thinking, this would be a good Popcorn and Matinee would be a great double feature.
Yeah, that sounds like a really cool. Considering they cover Castle, it sounds like they know his work very well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all I had on Matinee, but yeah, definitely check it out. It's got some. The kids are Kelly Martin from Life Goes On. Corky's sister is in it. The kid from Hocus Pocus, the main character from Hocus Pocus, is in it. The main character, I didn't have any notes on him. I couldn't really figure out. He was a British guy that has done some did a lot of kid acting. I think he may have retired since then. But Goodman kills it, and Kathy Moriarty is his girlfriend.
Yeah,
And
love
she's in
her.
Raging Bull at Soap Dish, and yeah, she plays a really kind of tired of his crap girlfriend. She's great. So D, what is your number two?
Spot number two, and I think I made you watch this movie, Barry, was as a perfect getaway. It's with from
Steve Zahn?
2009. Huh?
Steve Zahn?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it at the theater.
It's Steve Zahn, Timothy Olyphant, Mila Jovovich, and one of the earliest roles for Chris Hemsworth, which even though he's a small bit in it, it's kind of interesting because he kind of disappears in it. Like I never realized he was in it until watching it years later. But I don't know why, but it's one of my favorite movies, and it's just like I think it's just like a good kind of drama movie that kind of leaves you guessing until the reveal to some degree. It was directed. I'll do a bit like Will with more details. Is directed by David Tuhai. It looks like Tuai, and he's mostly done.
Pitch Black.
Yeah, yeah. He directed Pitch Black, but he's mostly done writing. Like he wrote The Fugitive, G.I. Jane, and some other things. But yeah, he was for directing. He's pretty much only done the Pitch Black and Riddick movies, which aside from Pitch Black, really aren't that great. It's totally different than that movie though, but it's about a two couples that come together on a Hawaiian vacation, and there's like mass murder on the loose or whatever, and so it's like these two couples that don't know each other, and they kind of band together to kind of hang out and stuff and get along real well. And we have one of our locals, Steve Zahn, as one of the main characters, and one of my favorite actors these days, Timothy Olyphant's in it. But
Super great as always.
yeah,
I don't recall seeing this. Maybe you made Goldie watch it.
yeah, maybe.
This was a time when I was like living out of a bag between wife. I guess we were getting married around that time. So yeah, I don't know if I was ever
Favorite
ever
wife?
home. Yeah, I think I was like married that year. I can't recall. I think it was the.
Well, I mean, it was probably a few years after that I, had it and tried to get people to watch it.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it, Will?
Yes, I enjoyed it. Off note, have you guys ever ran into Steve Zahn?
I've seen him a few times in the bars, but I've never really talked to him. But
He was in my old the old restaurant that I used to work at. He came in a couple times. Super nice guy.
No, I ran into him a couple times at the Kroger that's no longer there on Romney, and and I'm always nervous whenever I run into someone famous, because because I know who Steve Zahn is, and I could probably name like 10 movies if I thought about it.
yeah,
And he probably just yeah, that's great, man. I just want to get my fucking. I just want my Mentos and cigarettes. I want to leave. and I never want to appear like I'm stalkerish, because I actually like that guy. And what's weird, I can't figure out, even though Justified wasn't shot in Kentucky, couldn't they have found a role for Steve Zahn to play to tie to Kentucky at least?
like one of the rednecks.
But
Everyone I've ever talked to said he's really cool and that he's real friendly and that you can sit there and talk to him.
yeah, my thing is
Usually, when he's out at the bars and stuff.
I want to talk to him, but I'm never good in those situations.
Should have just run up and told him about your great love for him and how if he's not doing anything tonight.
One could dream.
What's the movie that he was in with?
Ironically, I don't mean to cut you off, Derek. He's in a movie I brought up earlier with Elmore Leonard. He's in Out of Sight.
Huh. He actually seems like a good actor. He mostly gets pigeonholed in these like goofy comedy roles, but I can't think of anything that he's been in that he didn't do a pretty damn good job of. I was trying to think of the Vietnam movie he was in that was Rescue Down. That's what it was. with
Christian
Christian Bale. No, that was a pretty good movie.
Yeah, that's a Werner Herzog movie, and he's one of those crazy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with his work, but like he
Yeah,
does the craziest fucking movies ever.
he is a crazy person.
Yeah, I mean, he's very entertaining guy. It's weird that like now he's kind of looked at like as a because they use him in comedy roles now because he's a warm old man, but like like in the '70s he was like threatening to shoot Klaus Kinski in the face if he didn't do another take.
Yeah, they like bring a gun to set or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
yeah,
a scary dude. I would not. Yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with that guy.
yeah. All right,
That's my number two.
Okay, I guess my number one. My number one is a movie called Cop. It's from 1988. It's based on a James Ellroy story, like a Blood on the Moon, and it stars James Woods.
Your hero.
Yeah. What sucks though, I'm a big James Woods fan of him as the actor.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't figure out like why he's a hero of the right, because it just seems like like most of the characters he's played in the movie would be like used as cannon fodder for the right of like what Hollywood liberals are. But anyway, he plays Lloyd Hopkins. He's a detective. He's a cop. He's really good at his job, like as far as like solving things. But his superiors hate him because he does what he wants. He breaks the rules. He's sleazy. He's not a very good husband. He loves his daughter, and his daughter loves him. And what's happening is it's another and Charles Durning is in this movie as well too. Like there's a bunch of murders, and the movie. The opening of this movie is pretty cool because as the credits start playing, you hear a 911 call. And a 911 call is this guy who was trying to break into a house to like steal, but the shit that he saw made him actually call 911 because it was a murder scene. And then you meet James Woods' character in the movie, and he's just a sleazy son of a bitch. And actually the books it's based on the first book of a trilogy, and James Ellroy wrote it. And if our former ex co-host Matt was on here, he could talk at length about him. But like the three books would be a perfect basis for a TV show. Because it covers like 20 years in Lloyd's life, before he was a cop, and then up to the point where he's no longer a cop. And the TV show could almost be like if True Detective and Justified crossed over. I mean, but it's.
So here's my pitch to you, Will.
Yes, sir.
Since Happy is over, we get Christopher Maloney to be the star of that TV show.
It'd be great. I mean, I can't imagine him. I can't imagine him as a cop, though.
Is he a cop in Happy? And every other thing? Yeah. He's such a great actor.
He actually liked one of my tweets a couple weeks ago, because somebody said something about the scarf that he wears in Happy, and and that's I don't know if you've seen Happy or not, Barry, but it's well worth what. Yeah, but he's this tough, crazy character, and he's got this really silly looking scarf on. For some reason, it doesn't look silly on him. And him and Tom Baker, the fourth Doctor Who, are the only two people I've ever seen that wear a scarf where it doesn't look silly.
Yeah.
That was my interaction with Chris Maloney.
I'm trying to think if I ever started this. I remember seeing the poster for this, thinking yeah, I need to see this.
It's fantastic.
18 episodes, maybe. That's what I'm seeing.
There's 8 the first season, and then 10 the second season, and Derrick said it jumped the shark in the second season.
Yeah.
I see nothing. There's at least 4 things every episode that made me I had to stop it because I was laughing so hard. There's a scene where he's beating the shit out of a bunch of people, and he's tasing him, right? And they do a Rockettes dancing line. He's pulling the trigger. It's really funny. I'm probably doing an injustice describing it, but it's worth watching that's season 2 just because of that.
Gotcha.
So this makes me think of, and it ties back to Steve Zahn again, which was Saving Silverman. Like, two things about that. One, I remember I can't remember who it was. We were joking about getting Barry saving Silverman for his first marriage, the movie, because of the theme of the movie. But no, what made me think about this was with Will and his interactions with celebrities. There's a scene where it's Steve Zahn and Jack Black, and they kidnap Neil Diamond. It was like the huge Neil Diamond fans, and Neil Diamond's like, "Wait a minute, you're those two guys that keep sending me nude photos." And Steve Zahn's like, "I've never sent you a nude photo." And he looks at Jack back, and he's like, "Damn it, man!" Imagine Will, Christopher Maloney's like, "You're that guy that keeps sending me nude photos, saying you like my scarf."
I will not send unsolicited dick pics. I make sure
Well,
so
you tuck it. You do the Silence of the Lambs thing.
Well, look. Don't. Why are you giving my game away? All right, Barry, you're number one.
So once again, I don't think I picked anything. All these movies I picked have had a massive star in them, one way or the other. And this one,
I think all of ours have, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, these are like, my older movies were like A-list celebrities though at their time. But
well, Barry, this is something that's come up before. I remember seeing, you know how movie magazines would have quizzes and stuff like that?
Yeah.
They showed a picture of Charlie Chaplin, and they said, okay, at one point this is the most popular actor on the planet. Name one of his movies. And very few people, I mean, I could do it just because I'm a crazy film buff. I'm pretty sure you probably could do it. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, but like at one point there'd be people like that be able to list off Charlie Chaplin's shorts.
Yeah.
Like how people could name Coen Brothers movies or Scorsese movies.
Yeah. But I know, it's just kind of comical to me. Yeah. But it's my favorite wife. It's a Leo McCarey movie with Cary Grant and Irene Dunn. There's really about a total of 4 actors and actresses in this movie, but they are the main characters. So what happens is 1940. Cary Grant and Irene Dunn are married, and I'm trying to think if I think she is the wife. Irene Dunn is on a ship, and there's a shipwreck, and she goes missing. And 7 years later is the current setting of the movie. He has been dating again, moved on with his life, and found a woman that he wants to get married to. And so he's given up the search for his wife, and he wants them to declare her legally dead so he can officially move on, get remarried, yada, yada. So it turns out like he does that, and like the second later, we find out that she's alive and well and has been surviving on an island with one of the other shipmates, this handsome fella. And that she finds her way back to the States, and I think runs into him the night of the honeymoon. So
Freeway?
Yeah. So now he's gonna figure out which wife he's gonna be with. It seems pretty obvious because it was the love of his life. It sounds like he's gonna pick her, and then all of a sudden he finds out she's been on an island with some dude for the last 7 years. So he gets pissed off, and it's one of those.
It sounds like this is a rip-off of Castaway.
Yeah. Yeah. The writer time traveled and watched that and back in time. But it's cute. Like, it's one of those. I love me some Cary Grant. And Irene Dunn is fantastic too. She was one of the greatest actresses from that time that did not ever get to win an Oscar. Most of the stuff that I've seen her in has been funny, lighthearted stuff. There's some pretty hardcore stuff like Penny Serenade her and Cary Grant are in. It's pretty sad. her and Cary Grant are also in The Awful Truth together. But she's every time I see her on there, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna tune in. And Cary Grant's probably my top 5 guys. I just love him to death. I mean, he's good enough for Hitchcock. He's good enough for me. So
Well, I that's something I was thinking about. I don't know when the first buddy cop movie came out, but it seemed like it should have been like a given like a genre, like that should be like back in the old Warner Brothers studio days. But it. I wish there had been a buddy cop movie with Cary Grant and Humphrey Bogart. Like, because they're probably like 2 of the top 5 stars from that era,
yeah.
and but they never crossed paths in the movie.
What I always forget. I mean, I'm trying to think where each. I mean, I know they borrowed actors between studios and everything, but I really can't think of too many Cary Grant, Humphrey Bogart movies. I can't think of any off the top of my head if there are.
No, but they were never in a movie together.
Yeah, but
I just went. I wish that they would because I think Cary Grant was under contract to Columbia.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, and and Bogart was him and Cagney went back and forth between the greatest Warner Brothers star. Well, I guess Errol Flynn was a Warner Brothers star too. But I wish that because I mean just the contrast between Bogart and Cary Grant would have been just really cool.
So you're picturing like a Cary Grant that's kind of like a happy-go-lucky, and then the standard hard-boiled Humphrey Bogart.
Well, I imagine Humphrey Bogart being like the family guy, but he's the one that he'll turn the camera off. I'll go interrogate him. And then and Cary Grant's like the suave playboy, but everybody just assumes he's coasting, but he's actually really good at his job too.
I like the idea because in every screwball comedy of this era, there's a newspaper reporter, right? So I like the idea that Cary Grant is a newspaper reporter, that he's riding along with Humphrey Bogart to get a day in the life of, and it turns into Training Day. That's what I want to see. That'd be fantastic.
Get that beer in you.
That'd be great. So D,
you have the.
I guess I want to start off first by saying that I like that because our dynamic, because with you, Barry, we have it looks like a lot of films from like the 40s or so. Will, we had a lot of 80s era, and then I'm pretty much all of mine are in the 2000s. My number one is my oldest one, which isn't that old. Which is 2006 Lucky Number 11. Have any of y'all seen that one?
That's a good one. I'm friends with that guy on Facebook, Jason Spilovic.
The writer.
Yes,
Nice.
he wrote a great TV show and called Kidnapped. And I think you were rejecting the Da Vinci's Inquest thing a couple days ago. I was gonna repitch the Kidnapped because it's only 13 episodes, and
Okay.
he wrote that. And that's a great movie. Yeah, that's a good pick.
Yeah, I thought there was a movie or maybe I tried to get Barry to watch or something, but it's stars Josh Hartnett, which I think is a very underrated actor, because he kind of got pigeonholed in those
Rom-coms.
yeah rom-coms early on, and then he kind of got sick of that and started doing mostly independent movies. And it's got Bruce Willis, Lucy Liu, Morgan Freeman, Ben Kingsley, lots of big names, Stanley Tucci. Man, I don't know how to explain it without giving it away. But Josh Hartnett shows up in town, and he's mistaken for somebody that owes a boss kingpin a bunch of money, and so the boss kingpin's goons drag him in. I believe it's Morgan Freeman no, I can't remember which one drags him in first, but basically Morgan Freeman is the kingpin and Ben Kingsley is the other one, and they used to be together, but now they're split up, and they kind of live in towers across the across from each other and never leave because they're afraid of getting assassinated. And then Josh Hartnett gets mixed up in all this, and Bruce Willis is like a assassin in the movie, and it's just a great movie and has an excellent twist at the end.
Well,
What a twist!
have you not seen it, Barry?
I don't think I remember Derrick coming in and like, you better watch it. These comedy, he likes repetition. He likes to hit you with the same joke about 15 times to the point where like it's not
Thunderdome, Thunderdome, Thunderdome.
Yeah, it becomes a classic after a while. And I think this was one of those moments. I remember him talking about this movie ad nauseum back in the day.
Yeah. Well, it's
and I can only imagine what awful movie you watched instead.
Well, there's a Chinese director named Wong Kar-wai. Are you familiar with him, Barry?
Nope.
He does like these like just very eccentric, like most of the Chinese movies that come over here are like John Woo or Sue Hark movies, where like there's this crazy where the Shaw Brothers movies from the 70s, where they're all action, where kung fu, or gunplay things. Wong Kar-wai makes these just weird, like relationship pieces, and you seen Yojimbo, right? Of course. Basically, Lucky Number 7 is Yojimbo if Wong Kar-wai did it. And it's just like because there's all kinds of weird relationships and weird cross-cutting and weird coincidences like that would that would only happen. The same director did a really good movie a couple years before that called Gangster Number 1. Have you all seen that one?
Nope.
It's Malcolm McDowell plays this old gangster, and he's reflecting on being a young man, and Paul Bettany plays him when he was a younger man. Paul Bettany's he's Russell Crowe's imaginary roommate in A Beautiful Mind.
Oh yeah, he's a big actor.
Yeah, he's a very cool actor. But yeah, but yeah, that's a good movie, good pick.
I wanted to mention, so I've been, if you see me look at our side, I'm looking at my other monitor, looking up all these things when people mention them. You mentioned John Sayles, Will, and that led me to Lone Star, which is a movie that I think I need to watch now. It just looks interesting.
You ever seen it?
No. Just looking at the cover and the description of the movie. So,
but what's weird is like there's almost the movie I just brought up, Gangster Number 1. That would almost be a really good double feature with Lone Star, because like it goes back and forth in time, and Chris Cooper plays the son, and Matthew McConaughey plays his father, and and it's all about like just the shit that a father builds and the son might have to pay for, especially if the father has a reputation.
And I'm kind of disappointed that Dead Man wasn't on your list, Barry.
Shut up! I swear. Once again, the love. It's not funny.
That needs to be on. That needs to be on the list because I was asking Will yesterday. It needs to be on my list of worst movies ever.
Yeah, that's
definitely a top 5.
That's definitely a list we got to build sometime too.
God,
I can only imagine. But yeah, Dead Man's not gonna be on the list.
Well, that dude, I don't know if I brought this up with you all. His name's Jim Jarmusch, the guy who directed Dead Man. His movies are hard to watch. It's like he goes out of his way to like, hey, what would be a good idea for a movie? And then he goes, yeah, that'd be a good movie that'd be a good idea for a movie, but let's do the complete opposite. And instead of having things that make people happy, we're just gonna have boring long takes that don't go anywhere.
I'm looking at a picture of him, and he looks like the type of person that would do that.
No, man. If you hear him talk, he's overly pretentious. He's got a deep voice, and it's just, yeah. Then we were filming down by Law, New Orleans, and we found the most beautiful scene. And what we would do after we established that, we turn the camera around and shoot that way. It's like, wow, this guy goes out of his way to make shit. And and he's considered a great artist, and I can't figure. That's one of those guys I can't figure out.
So, Will, when is Jason Smilovic going to be on our show?
I don't know.
They're hit him up.
I've exchanged a couple. I say happy birthday to him every year. And he said happy birthday to me a couple years ago.
That's cool. Well,
But
there you go. I mean,
he's
no
never
new photos yet, so that's good.
he hasn't blocked me yet. But he's never responded to, and I've sent him messages because basically like when I got done watching Kidnapped, and it was 12 episodes, I think, or 13 episodes. As soon as the 13th episode is over, you want to watch the first episode of season 2, but it never happened.
Yeah.
And I remember going, "Hey man, do you have an outline where the fuck you were going? What, like, can you please send it to me?" And he saw the message, but he never responded to me.
That's the worst.
Go ahead.
That's the worst thing about movies and books, and is you get a property that you just fall in love with, and then it just goes nowhere. I remember. Did it ever make you watch Wonder Falls? You remember that it was one of those. So when Family Guy came back on the air, they make a joke about like, oh my gosh, we're canceled. Like, will we ever make it back on TV? And I think Peter goes like, well, if such great shows such as, and lists off a slew of Fox properties that don't make it. He says, if these properties don't make it, I guess they may call us back or something like that. It's on that list, and it was a show that was so expensive apparently to make, and they got such returns on it. They cut it off after the 4th episode.
Is that the Brian Fuller? Did he have something to do with that?
I can't recall. I mean, it's been a long while since I watched it. The DVD set that had the entire season, the full series.
Was Mandy Patinkin? Is he in it?
Dude, I couldn't tell you. It's been that long. But it's a girl that keeps running into inanimate objects that talk to her, and she doesn't know if they're God or Satan. They usually early on. They end up helping her help other people out by her actions, and then sometimes those actions inadvertently cause other people pain. So she never knows what in the hell's going on, and she's losing her mind. But the DVD set, one thing that's cool about it is they show you the plot for like 5 seasons worth of storylines. They explained where the show was going to go, which I was like, I needed this. I needed this closure for the show.
Okay, I just looked it up. Yeah, it's a Brian Fuller thing. I haven't seen What's it? I haven't seen Wonder Falls, but he also did Pushing Daisies, and he did the Hannibal TV show, and those are 2 of the greatest shows that have that I got hurt. I was hurt when they canceled. Just thinking why can't they keep making them? There's it seemed like when we were kids, teenagers, USA would just keep making shows that nobody would watch. Like Silk Stockings, and then Jag lasted 16 seasons. So, and I can't figure out what, how come they keep that shit going? Which I don't know anybody that's ever watched Jag.
Actually, I actually watched Jag a bit. I remember. Do you remember when it would come on my first HDTV, Barry? How amazing it would look, like that Jag logo that embroidered Jag logo come on. It looked like it was popping out of the screen. Like our first experience with HDTV. It wasn't a bad show by any means. Now, Silk Stockings was a terrible show, and I think as a kid, I would sometimes tune in hoping there would be some racy near nudity or something, but it was always just a fucking mind-boggling, terrible show.
Well, that's the thing. I remember watching it just in hopes, maybe a nipple will pop out.
This is what is happening.
And it was dumb because I was. Did I tell the cops America's Most Wanted story already?
I don't think so. So go for it.
Yeah. Okay. When I was a kid, I'm pretty sure I told this before. I've told it a lot. So if it rings a bell, edit it out. Fox wasn't technically as the station that it became, right? They were showing I Love Lucy and Honeymooner shows just to fill time, right?
Yeah.
And in the mid '80s, they had Married with Children, Tracy Ullman, America's Most Wanted, and Cops, and they'd show that on Sunday night. And they'd always show America's Most Wanted and Cops back to back. And I was a smart kid and I was also a dumb kid. I was a smart kid because, like, I was aware, like, like, maybe they show cops first. Like, and, like, you see, like, somebody would take off running from the cops, and you see the cops chase after him, and you see the camera shaking, and, like, and get the guy be handcuffed, like, get your hands off me. And, like, and they'd be, like, a handheld close up of the guy's face as he's getting arrested, blurred out. And then on America's Most Wanted, they would simulate murders.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when I was a kid, I was smart enough to know that there was a cameraman, but I was not smart enough to. I was too dumb to realize that what reenactment was. And I got so fucking mad and upset. But and my mom and dad, they both laughed at it. Like, like, I got really upset. They simulated a murder on America's Most Wanted. And I'm like, why did the cameraman stop him? What the fuck? Why I mean, I didn't say what the fuck. But, like, it was just like, why? Well, how's the cameraman still alive? Like, that kind of thing. And, like, and they had to explain to me, like, what it was. And then I felt cheated because they made it was that convincing. And I'm glad those disappeared into the ether because, like, if I try watching them now, I'd be like, wow, I was a really stupid kid.
So Barry, I'm seeing a theme here with your likes because I think you mentioned Wonder Falls had this, and then the last episode you're talking about Hellblade. You seem to have a thing for mentally unstable women.
Yeah. No, Hellblade. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And that reminded me of a film that I know you like a lot, and I also enjoy it a lot. That I'm disappointed is on your list. It involves a unstable woman. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's from the 80s. Was it the 80s or was it 90s?
I can't remember.
No, it's 90s, 97.
What is it?
It starred Robin Tunney in it.
Oh, it's about Niagara?
Yeah, Niagara.
That's a great movie. I didn't know you liked it.
List.
Yeah, Robin Tunney and Henry Thomas, I think. E.T.
Here's the thing. I had a joke a couple months ago about Henry Thomas that nobody liked, and it pissed me off. Like, he got arrested for a DUI, and it was one of those will finishes as the headline story, which I think that we should probably figure out a way to do that on our show here. But, like, it was like Henry Thomas arrested for DUI. ... Alien and basket taken in for questioning. And that's a brilliant E.T. joke.
Yeah.
Got no fucking love.
No love.
Was it on here or on Facebook or something?
It's on Facebook.
Okay.
Have you ever seen Niagara, Will?
No, I haven't.
I can't recall what her. They both have issues.
She has like tics and stuff, and
It's Tourette's.
Who's the actress?
violent Robin Tunney. She has tics and violent outbursts.
Robin Tunney was in the Craft. She's in like I can't think of that one movie. It's a snow movie. Maybe it's at Event Horizon.
She's in Empire Records. You've seen Empire Records, haven't you?
Oh yeah, she's the one that shaves her head.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I like that girl.
Yeah.
That's where a friend of mine, Jordana, and I were talking about Empire Records, like recently, because what's her name? The girl that was in the Kevin Smith movies. Joey Loren. Yeah. We were talking about her, and we had a. Oh man, what was the thing? There's another girl that I get confused with, and Renee Zellweger from the '90s. I always got, for some reason, there's three girls that I always got mixed up in my head. Like if they played sisters in a movie, oh, it was Jennifer Tilly. I think that was the third one.
Yeah.
If you said there was a movie and Joey Lauren Adams, Meg Tilly, and not Meg Tilly, Jennifer Tilly, and Renee Zellweger played sisters, it seemed like it'd be completely believable to me.
So yeah, I definitely something that you need to find. Will is Niagara. It's just so I think Henry Thomas just has like nothing to lose. Like he's running from home. He's just kind of like this late '90s.
She's
slacker.
She has Tourette's and she's a kleptomaniac, and they run into each other both trying to shoplift. and then they go on this like adventure to Canada, I believe it is.
And it kind of feels like if you ever seen the the '90s Mad Love with Chris O'Donnell and um, wow, speaking of ET, um,
Drew Barrymore.
yeah, where she has I can't remember what her problem is, but she's got a major mental health issue, and it's just
Or like Benny and June.
yeah. I mean, yeah, O'Donnell plays this. He's just a normal dude, not really too many issues, and kind of runs into this mess of a woman that he just falls in love for head over heels. And
Isn't that weird that like most romantic comedies have like somebody has a mental health issue?
well,
Like,
this is not a romantic comedy, but
oh,
yeah, no, yeah, it's not very much a romantic comedy whatsoever. It's a drama for sure. Both of these are dramas.
Niagara is a drama.
I'd say it's kind of
it's a little drama romance.
I'd say it's a drama, romance, and comedy as well.
It's got some moments that tries to make everything more lighthearted.
Yeah, it's definitely wouldn't be like a comedy. Just
it's a dark ass movie though.
Well, this is something that I was also thinking about, and I also might have brought it up before, so forgive me if I have. Have I told you all about how evil I think Pretty Woman is?
I don't think so, but let's hear it.
Okay. Well, it's like that's one of the movies like Dirty Dancing, Pretty Woman, and like there's another one from that era that like girls our age absolutely adore these movies, right?
Yeah.
And Pretty Woman seems like they talk about like when we were talking about video games earlier, we were talking about the Congress getting involved because like dumbass kids trying to reenact what they saw in video games. I wonder how many young women decided, hey, I can get a Richard Gere looking guy if I go out and pedal my ass. I'll just be temporarily. And and I wonder how many dudes watch Pretty Woman going, man, I can get a Julia Roberts looking hooker if I look hard enough.
It's totally clean.
Yeah. And so I wonder how many dudes took hookers home, which you're not supposed to take them to your house. It's a bad idea. Because you wake up and and they're still in your fucking plumbing.
You've learned that lesson, right, Will?
Oh yeah, fooled me 4 times.
Shame on you.
Yeah, I mean, even as a kid or however old I was when Pretty Woman came out, I always thought it was ironic that it was like such a beloved movie by women, and it's like it's kind of messed up.
Well, no, I mean, then wow, this guy is really handsome. He's really into me, and then then you find out this guy it resembles more like not the tender romantic love scene in Pretty Woman, but the horrifying gang rape that's in Leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I don't know about Dirty Dancing. Like Dirty Dancing's got some issues, but I don't think it's as bad as Pretty Woman.
I'm trying to think that I remember seeing I think it was a YouTube video where some guy kind of reviewed or went over Dirty Dancing and how kind of like weird, how weird like the father-daughter relationship was, and how or else it was one of those things. It's kind of like when they go back and look at the Karate Kid. It's like
Daniel's the antagonist.
Yeah. Where what's the main dude's name in Dirty Dancing? I can't think of his name for some reason.
Patrick Swayze?
Yeah, or Patrick Swayze's kind of like the bad guy. Where
he is a much older guy.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's like the father was just trying to do this and protect his daughter, and then you have Patrick Swayze coming in and robbing the cradle and all that.
Like it feels like it's set in like 61, 62, when like probably the top 5 of the 10 hits on the radio were like, "You're only 16, and I'm going to hook up with you." Yeah, I guess.
Great Balls of Fire starts playing.
Yeah. So in that scenario, yeah, it's a rough movie to watch. And there's like a freaking, for it to be loved by housewives, there's abortion in that movie. Like it pushes the envelope a little bit. It's a topic that you don't cover much in romantic movies.
I think we need to do an episode which was kind of mentioned with I can't remember the name of the show. the show already. Will was watching. I think we need to do an episode of TV shows that only lasted one season that should have kept going.
That'd be a good topic.
Yes, I think.
I believe me, I'm down for this. Like, as I was telling you all, I've been hoarding all this shit for years, knowing that one day I would do a podcast, knowing that, like, okay, well, we want to talk about the shit. Trying to think of something. Obscure movies from the 40s. I got a bunch of those. Why not?
I like how it's like we need to go ahead, Barry.
I was like, Will was going to write a 10,000-page multi-volume book set, but now he just has a podcast to do.
I just like the thought of there's like some odd movie we need to watch, and so me and Barry are like scrounging the internet trying to find it or find some like bootleg stream somewhere, and then Will, goes and he does the eye scan. It scans his retina. He puts his hand down, and then like this vault door opens, and it's just like fucking endless rows of like VHS and DVD movies.
I wish I still had the VHSs, but like I had to throw those away just because like a box of VHS tapes weighs about 90 pounds, and like and I couldn't move that shit when I moved. But what was it? Okay, I think that like I don't know if this is for to be aired or not, but like was talking about the Stallone and Schwarzenegger movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, what I think we should do with that is that, like, for the next couple weeks or whenever we have time, we just have like a 30 to 45 minute segment and we just cover one battle between the two guys. And then, like, at the end of it, we can put it all together in the omnibus and, like, and that'd be a bonus, like, just like be a best of thing of that one topic that we can release as in case we ever want to take a week off from this.
Sounds.
I don't mind. I mean, so your list, the double feature thing, I don't mind. Is I think just doing double features would be good. I mean, just doing like let's do one, maybe one a month or one every few months. It's like it's our fallback.
Yeah.
So it's not just like week after week after week, Stallone versus Arnold, but yeah. Let's look at the pairings and figure out which we want to do next. And
the only pairing I couldn't make work, and I kind of justified it, is the Conan versus Nighthawks one, because those were the ones that kind of established them as action stars.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Even though Rocky and Rocky 2 came out before that, like like they're not really action movies. They're dramas that have boxing in it.
Yeah.
And Schwarzenegger, he just did the Pumping Iron movies and stuff like that, and those are hard to watch.
Hercules.
Hercules in New York.
Hercules in New York. Yeah.
Well, guys, once again, my old man bladder is knocking.
Okay.
I don't know if you can hear him.
My youthful stomach is knocking. Wanting some food.
I think it is time to wrap it up for this week. It
Yeah.
was a good talk. I'm shocked that Will picked 5 movies that we've never even fucking heard of. I'm shocked.
Wait, do we have time for a bunch of honorable mentions?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, and also like this is all because we not really. These aren't the top 5 definite. This is also something we can revisit. We if we did what we did this week and just we get to Saturday before we decide what we're gonna do. We could do. I can think of another 5 more movies just from the ones I rejected from today.
Well, I had 13 on my list that I pared down to 5, and then as we're talking, I remember 2 of them, and one of them I was like, "Shit, I probably would have put that on my list." But yeah, so yeah, I could definitely do probably at least 2 more of these. But
I mean, all 5 of those movies I watched, I've watched recently within the past year, and they're all. The James Ellroy book that Cop's based on is a really, really good book. It's called Blood on the Moon if you guys want to check it out.
okay.
All right, guys.
Well,
Until next
you later.
time, Will roll us out.
Oh yeah. Don't be a cunt. Wear a mask.
see you later, everybody.
See.